You are not my brother. Joan said it during the birthday song. Calm and coldly, and with those 5 words, Mark's entire world cracked. What came next wasn't just a family secret. It was a buried truth that had been rotting for decades. A mother's affair, a dead uncle, a father who chose silence. And Mark, he was the result no one had the courage to name. This is his story, of bloodlines erased, of identities rewritten, of love twisted by lies.
My name is Mark. I'm 27 years old. I work as a graphic designer. I live alone in a cramped apartment, and I carry a loneliness that I don't even know if it's loneliness or just habit anymore. My life is silent. Not good, not bad, just silent. I don't have big fights nor big joys, just the weight of existing. My family was never united, but it was also never officially destroyed. We meet on birthdays, funerals, and holidays, more out of obligation than out of affection. My mother, Sabrina, is a practical, meticulous woman, the kind that cares more about how the dishes look than how you're feeling. My father, John, is almost a specter, a man of few words, an always tired look, and an impressive ability to disappear emotionally from anywhere. And Joan, my sister, 2 years older, always so determined, so sure of everything, and as cold to me as a closed door. I spent most of my life trying to understand why she seemed to hate me so much. I thought it was an irritation, a difference in personalities, but perhaps it was always something much deeper. Last Saturday, we went to celebrate my grandfather Alfredo's 80th birthday, the patriarch, the central figure, the concrete wall that kept the family standing, or at least stacked. The party was organized at his house, as always, everything very elegant. Table set with lined cutlery, porcelain plates, expensive wine. Starched shirts, fake smiles, but the weather was wrong. Joan spent the whole night avoiding my eyes. Not even a hi. I saw her arguing quietly with my mother in the hallway. I saw my mother sweating, even with the air conditioning on. I saw my father sitting in the corner, with a glass in his hand, staring into space. Grandfather was paler than usual. He watched everything as if he knew that it was an act about to collapse. When it was time for congratulations, everyone gathered around the cake. Joan held a glass of sparkling wine. My mother whispered something in her ear, quick and low. Joan turned her face away. The happy birthday ended, and before my grandfather could blow out the candle, Joan took a step forward. I'm not going to pretend anymore. Everyone was silent. My heart froze. She looked directly at me, and then she said, "You are not my brother." The silence after her sentence was deafening. The entire room froze. I stood still, as if I had been shot and that my body had not yet registered. My mother dropped the glass she was holding. It fell to the carpet with a muffled sound, but loud enough to break the spell of the moment. My father remained motionless, with his eyes fixed on the ground, as if it didn't happen to him. Grandfather simply looked at the lit candle, as if it were more important than anything else. "Joan, that's enough," my mother whispered, her teeth clenched but her voice was shaking. "Not here. Not now." Joan laughed, a sound without any joy. Of course, always like that, right? Always the theater. Always a lie. She looked at me again. "He deserves to know." "What are you talking about?" My voice was low, almost breaking. "Are you kidding? What the heck, Joan?" "It's no joke, Mark." She said my name like it was poison. "You're not my brother. You never were. And it's time for everyone to stop pretending." My mother walked up to her, grabbed her arm. "I told you to stop. Now. You will destroy this family." "Family?" Joan pulled her arm back. "You destroyed this family 27 years ago. I'm just telling you what's left." I looked at the faces around and no one seemed surprised. Nobody said anything. That scared me more than anything. My father, he just wiped his face and got up slowly, as if trying to leave the scene without being noticed. "Father!" I called, with a lump in my throat. "Are you going to leave it like that?" He didn't respond. He just walked to the balcony and closed the door behind him. My mother, with teary eyes, turned to me. She doesn't know what she's saying. I know, yes, Joan countered. You made me hide this for years. I was just a teenager when I found out. Those letters, that box. You swore you'd tell him. That one day... Shut up, my mother growled. For the first time in my life, I saw my mother lose control. She was shaking. You don't know what that means. You have no idea what was at stake. I walked away, stunned. I felt my stomach turn. What cards? What box? What are you saying, Joan? You are not our father's son, Mark. You are his brother's son. Uncle Daniel's. That sentence went through me like a blade. Slow, cold, cutting from the inside out. Joan continued relentlessly. They had an affair. Our mother and Aunt Helena's husband. For years. I found the hidden letters when I was 14. I read everything. She planned to run away with him. But he died before. An accident. Or suicide. Nobody knows. All I know is that, months later, you were born. My breathing started to hitch. The head spun. My mother sat on the couch, hands over her face, muttering things I couldn't understand. Did you know? I asked, voice barely coming out. Did you know all this? She didn't respond. That's when I understood. Silence was confession. I left without saying goodbye. I just left. I walked through the gate as if I was dreaming. The cold, wind hitting my face was the only thing that reminded me that this was real. I don't remember driving. I only realized I was home when I threw my keys on the counter and sat down on the kitchen floor, still wearing my shoes. You are not my brother. You are our father's brother's son. Our mother was going to run away with him. The sentences hammered like nails. I couldn't breathe properly. I closed my eyes. I waited for it to pass. It didn't pass. I stayed there for over an hour, thinking, trying to organize the pieces, and that's when the flashes started. Memories that I had never interpreted as clues, small gestures, silences that, at the time, I thought were normal. But now they made sense. I remembered one day. I was about 6 years old. I was drawing in the living room when my mother came in. She saw the drawing. It was a family. A father, a mother, a boy, and a girl. She looked for a few seconds and said, "Maybe not everyone in the same house is from the same family." I didn't understand at the time. I smile. She didn't smile back. I also remembered the way my grandfather looked at me, not with affection, not with anger. It was a look of discomfort, as if I were something out of place. He never called me grandson. He always treated me formally. With Joan, it was a different tone. He called her my pride. I was never proud of anyone. I started to wonder if I always knew, if somehow I felt there was something wrong. A distance that no one could explain, a coldness that I tried to justify with the personality of others. Maybe it was all that, or maybe it was just me, trying to convince myself that I was exaggerating. What hurt me most wasn't the biological suit. I could deal with not having the same blood. What destroyed me was the lie, silent complicity, the theater. Having lived my entire life as an extra on a stage where everyone knew the script, except me. I took an old photo from the drawer. It was us on the beach. I was 7 years old. Joan was 9. My parents were smiling behind us. I remember that day. I had lost my toy at sea and I cried a lot. My mother didn't console me. It was Joan who hugged me. Today, she hates me. But that day, she looked like my sister. That memory hit me like a punch. I started to cry. No fuss, no drama. I just cried. For the child I was, for everything I accepted quietly, for the certainty that I was never loved the way I thought I was. I cried until I couldn't feel anything anymore. Later, still without hunger, without sleep, without direction, I picked up my cell phone. I saw an unread message from Joan. "If you want to know everything, meet me tomorrow, alone, in the usual place." The usual place was the park near the school where we grew up, a forgotten corner where we hid to eat hidden sweets after class. A safe place, or was. I responded with an okay. I closed the cell phone. And for the first time in my life, I started to think that maybe I never had a family, just a bunch of people afraid of being discovered. The next day before meeting Joan, I decided to go to my father's house, or rather Joan's father's. I didn't warn him. I simply knocked on the door. He took his time opening it, as he always did, as if he was never waiting for anyone. When he saw me, he showed no surprise, not guilt, not anger, just acceptance, as if he knew this moment would come. "Do you want to come in?" he asked without looking me in the eye. "I want." The house was the same way, smell of old wood and accumulated silence. He guided me to the living room and sat down in his usual armchair. I didn't sit down. "And truth?" I asked directly. "Joan's not lying, right?" He was silent. He looked at the window. His breathing was deep, heavy. After a few seconds, he slowly shook his head. "I always knew there was a chance." "A chance?" I laughed nervously. "Is this a genetic draw now?" "I knew that your mother and Daniel had been involved." She denied it, but I felt it. I saw how she looked at him, how she talked about him. After he died, she was different, much more than an in-law widow should. "And you accepted that? You agreed to raise another man's child? Without ever telling me anything? You were just a baby, Mark." His voice broke for the first time. "And I had already lost so much. The idea of losing you too. I couldn't do it, so I pretended. I pretended it was mine. I pretended it was possible to carry on. But it couldn't be done, right?" I looked around. "This whole house is made up of pretense." He sighed deeply, ran his hands over his face. "Your mother begged me to forget. She said she didn't know for sure that you could be mine. And deep down, I wanted to believe, because I loved her, and because you deserved a family. This isn't family, Dad. This was a prison, a lie with a roof and silverware." I know. His words didn't come in anger. He didn't try to defend himself. He was just an old man, tired of carrying what he never had the courage to let go of. He looked at me, and only then did I realize he was crying. In silence. As he always did everything. "Did you love me even though you thought I wasn't yours?" He didn't hesitate. "Of course I did. Maybe even more, because I knew no one else was going to do it right." That tore me apart inside. Part of me wanted to explode, scream, break something. But another part, I just wanted to sit there, next to him, and cry like a child. I held back. "Does Joan know that she's not your daughter either?" I fired, as if I were throwing a bomb into the air. He turned pale. He swallowed dryly. It took him a few seconds to respond. "She must know. Sabrina was pregnant when we started. I accepted. She promised we would have another chance. I wanted to believe. Then none of us are your children. In the flesh, maybe not. But you are the only people who kept me alive after everything." He got up. He knelt before me. "I was wrong, but I don't regret loving you." I stood. Not knowing what to say, I just nodded. I turned and walked away. He didn't try to stop me. At the door, I thought about saying something. To thank, blame, anything. But all I could say was, "Goodbye, Dad. My mother's house always smelled a little sweet, a little sickly. Lavender mixed with forced cleansing." I entered like someone invading enemy territory. She wasn't. Or I didn't want to show up. The front door was unlocked, as always. I went in, closed it behind me, and went up the stairs. I knew what I was looking for, even if I didn't know exactly where to look. The closet in her room was huge and old, the kind that seems to hide more than clothes. I rummaged through drawers, pushed shoeboxes, turned over sheets. Nothing. But something told me I was close. That's when I saw the false bottom of one of the drawers, a lighter wood, poorly fitted. I pulled carefully, and there it was, a small navy blue box with a faded ribbon. Trembling, I opened it. Cards, 24, maybe more. Some folded into quarters, others with tear marks. All written by hand, all signed by Daniel. The name made me sick. My uncle, the brother of the man who raised me, the real father. I took the first letter. It was dated a month before I was born. Sabrina, I can't stand living between whispers any longer. I want to run away with you. I want to raise this son, our son. You know he's mine. I feel it. I dream of him, of you. The words seemed alive. I read it and felt the pain, the despair, the dirty passion. With each letter, their plan became clearer: to escape, abandon everything, starting over far away with a son that no one knew was from another man. But he died before. An accident, according to the family. But there in the letters, there was another name for it: despair. In the last letter, Daniel wrote, "If I can't go, don't think it was a choice. If I don't come back, know it was because I couldn't stand it." I closed my eyes. I held back the tears, but I couldn't stop my hands from shaking. His words destroyed me. He wanted to be my father. He wanted to raise me, wanted to love me, and no one left. The bedroom door opened with a click. My mother came in. S stopped when he saw me with the box in my lap. Her eyes went straight to the cards, and then for mine. "So it's true," I said. She didn't respond. She just closed the door behind her and leaned against it, as if she needed support. "You were going to run away with him. You were going to abandon everything." She sighed, tired. "I was young, stupid, in love. You knew I was his son, from the beginning. And yet, you raised me in a lie. I tried to do the right thing." After he died, everything changed. I had nowhere to go. John forgave me, welcomed me. I thought I could erase everything, but it didn't go off. No. She looked at the floor. It never went out. I approached, the card still in my hands. "You lied your whole life, not just to me, to everyone." "I know." "Why?" She looked at me, her eyes red but dry. "Because it was easier than losing everything." "You've already lost everything, Mom." This time, she had no response. I left the room. I went down the stairs without looking back. I left the house like someone fleeing a fire that hadn't started yet. In my pocket, I kept one of the letters, proof of who I was, or maybe who I could never be. The next morning, I put on the first clothes I found and left the house without eating, without speaking, without thinking. I just went. The cell phone marked the meeting time. Her message was still on the screen. "If you want to know everything, meet me tomorrow, alone, in the usual place." It was like an invitation to go back in time, and at the same time, a ticket to the center of a minefield. The park was still the same, the tall trees, the cracked cement bench, the muffled sound of the city in the background. We used to go there after school, sharing packets of sweets, speaking badly about teachers, planning to run away from home, from the same house that now broke us into silence. Joan was already there when I arrived, sitting on the bench, fidgeting with her coat as if she were cold. She looked at me but didn't smile. Me either. I sat next to her. We remained silent for a few seconds. "You came," she said. "You called me." She nodded. She picked up a fallen leaf from the ground and began to tear it into strips one by one. "I'm sorry I did it like that," she murmured, "in front of everyone. You did what no one else had the courage to do." She looked at me sideways. "Still, it wasn't supposed to be like this." "Joan," I took a deep breath. Why did you hate me so much?" She stopped and let the pieces of the leaf fall to the ground. She remained silent for a few seconds before responding. "Because I thought you were the favorite, that everyone revolved around you, and that somehow I was the invisible daughter, the wrong one. But I was never the favorite. I just existed there. I know that now." She pulled her sleeves, up until they covered her hands. "But when I found out, everything turned upside down. I was 14 years old. I was looking for a book in Mom's room and I found the box. I read all the letters. I understood everything. And I also understood that you weren't my brother." She stopped and looked ahead, into emptiness. "But what no one ever told you is that I'm not our father's daughter either." I turned to face her slowly. "What?" She nodded. "Mom was already pregnant when she started with him. I was part of the package. He knew. He accepted it. They got married in a hurry. They made it seem like it was normal. And I grew up believing it was, until I found out everything." I was speechless. The world around her seemed to slow down. It was as if we were in an old movie, running in slow motion. Two children lost in a park that was no longer a refuge. It was ruin. I hated you, Mark, because you were a living reminder of her mistake. And for some reason, she seemed more willing to try to love you than me. "She didn't love any of us," I replied, almost without thinking. "She was just trying to save her own image." Joan swallowed dryly. "Deep down, I think I wanted you to know, for you to see me, because even though I knew we weren't blood brothers, I still felt like your sister." We were silent. The wind blew slowly. The sun fell weakly between the branches. A child ran past with a dog. Life outside went on. "And now?" I asked. "What do we do with all this?" "I don't know," she replied. "But for the first time, we know who's who, even if it doesn't mean anything to anyone else." I got up. I looked at her one last time. "You've always been my sister, no matter the blood. It's just that now, I need to step away. I need to find out who I am without all this weighing me down." She nodded. "Go, but come back one day. Even if just to remember who we were before everything broke." I left the park without looking back. I felt sorry for Joan. And for the first time, I saw in her the same emptiness that I had always carried within me. 2 days later, I went to see my grandfather. He was hospitalized after a fall at home that no one talked about. Joan texted me, "If you want answers, go now. He doesn't have much time." I went, not out of compassion, but because deep down I knew he was the only one who had never told me anything. And yet he always seemed to know everything. The room was private, silent, just as he always liked it. The light from the window filtered through the curtains, painting the room gray. He was lying down, but awake. His eyes were sunken and his body withered inside the hospital pajamas, but the gaze was still sharp. When he saw me, he showed no surprise, just said, "Are you looking for the truth?" I nodded. I closed the door. I approached slowly. He didn't look fragile. It felt exact, as if he knew exactly what that moment represented. "You knew from the beginning," I said, "or did not know?" "Of course I knew," he replied without hesitation. "It was my son, Mark. Do you think I wouldn't recognize his blood in your eyes?" That gave me goosebumps. "Then why didn't you ever tell me? Why did you let it build up like a ticking time bomb?" He gave a dry smile. "Because I needed the family to survive, and the truth sometimes kills more than lies." "Do you think this is survival?" I gestured around, disgusted. "We are a ruin with a surname, but a respected ruin," he countered. "Our family name is still strong. Imagine what would have happened if it all came to light 27 years ago. Your mother dishonored, your father destroyed, your sister rejected. I would have lost everything. And why? On a whim of forbidden love? Out of weakness? Do you think love was weakness? Loving the wrong way? Yes. He looked at me firmly. Your mother betrayed the family name. You were the result. But it's not your fault. You were just a consequence. His words were surgical, as if he was describing structural damage, not life. Not my life. And you? What were you? The architect of it all? I was what I always was. The man who kept the house standing. He coughed weakly, but continued. Do you think it's easy to live with so many mistakes around? The only thing I had left was control. We were silent. The heart monitor made its constant sound, as if marking the time of the lies that were dying. There. I looked at him for long seconds. He was just an old man who never apologized, who never really loved, who exchanged affection for appearance, connection for command. You never called me grandson, I said. Why? Because I couldn't. It wasn't my place. And if I had done that, I would have admitted what everyone denied. And now? Now you are free. I won't last long, and when I'm gone, this story goes with my flesh. What you do with it is your choice. I got up. There was nothing else there. Just a body that waited to die and a soul that had been buried for a long time. At the door, he said in a scratchy voice, sometimes love must die, for the name to survive. I didn't respond. I didn't look back. I left that room carrying his silence with me. Not out of respect, but as if it were the last inheritance he could give me. It's been 2 weeks since I left the hospital. 2 weeks without speaking to anyone in my family. No messages, no calls, just silence. And for the first time, that silence didn't destroy me. It relieved me. I thought the void was going to swallow me. I thought discovering that everything I lived was based on a lie would break me beyond repair. But the truth is that somehow it finally stopped hurting. Their absence is no longer an open wound. It's a healing wound. I returned to my routine like someone stepping into unknown but familiar territory. Work, traffic, supermarket, everything the same on the outside, not inside. Something in me changed. It's as if an invisible tumor was ripped out. The space still hurts, but now I know what was there, and I know I'm no longer a hostage to it. I thought a lot about what my grandfather said. You are free. He thought he freed me from a secret. But what it did was free me from the illusion, the obligation to be part of something that never wanted me completely, from the guilt that I carried without knowing where it came from. My mother didn't talk to me. And honestly, I don't expect her to talk. Her silence was always louder than any excuse she could give me now. It doesn't hurt anymore. It just confirms what I already knew. Joan sent me a single message. I'm going to try to start over. For real. This time. I didn't respond, but I hope she can do it. Maybe one day we will meet again, not as brothers, but like two strangers who survived the same collapse. Yesterday, I went to our childhood beach. I took Daniel's last letter with me. I read it out loud, with the wind trying to erase each word. You are mine. Even if the world tries to deny you, you are mine. For the first time, I believed it. I am the son of a man who wanted to love me and died trying. And I was raised by a man who loved me even without needing to. Neither was perfect. But among the blood and silence, I found something more valuable. The truth. The truth broke me, but it also remade me. Today, when I look in the mirror, I no longer see an imposter. I see someone who survived the lie, and that in itself is already a lot.
That was his story. And if you've made it this far, we want to ask you, what marked you the most on this journey? What would you have done in his place? And more importantly, if you listened all the way to the end, write the phrase silence. Also speaks in the comments. That's how we'll know who truly walked through this darkness until the very last page. And yes, we'll read every single one. Everyone who participates will get a like from us. If this story touched something inside you, consider subscribing to the channel. Leave a like, share it with someone who carries their own silences, and turn on notifications. Because here, every story is a deep dive into the human soul, where the truth is often the most painful thing to uncover. We'll see you in the next confession.